Good morning, everybody. Coming to you live from Hamburg, Pennsylvania. Today, my dad and I are headed to Science Uncensored in Grantville, Pennsylvania, which is out near, I guess, Hershey-Harrisburg area. So we're headed over there to see some amazing speakers. We're having Dr. Peter McCullough speak, attorney Tom Renz, and Steve Kirsch. Also, there will be tabling and networking going on before and after the event. I know that Ken Matthews, a conservative radio host, will also be there. From what I've heard, he'll be giving a speech after the event in the tabling area, so that's pretty exciting for those that have followed his program over the years. He was a guest fill-in for Rush Limbaugh, I guess, many times. So if you're interested in meeting him, definitely come to the event. As far as I know, there's still tickets available, so if you haven't gotten your tickets, you can go to allianceforliberty.com and register for tickets. Just make sure you print them out and bring them with you. If you don't have a time to do that, you can always just show up at the hotel where the event's being hosted, and they will have a registration desk so that if people don't show up with their tickets, you can purchase the remaining seats.
Do we have tickets?
We do. I printed them out last night. Scott and I are actually going to be helping to run the event because we are doing some recording for the event. Alliance for Liberty is, so we've volunteered to help them out if they needed a hand. So today we'll be helping run their cameras, so that's pretty exciting. And Alliance for Liberty is going to be launching their new platform today, so once I find out that details, I will share it with everybody. It's pretty exciting.
Science for Liberty had a similar event in March of last year. That's the first time we saw them.
Yeah, that was really, really good.
And they hosted Peter McCullough then as well.
They also had Steve Kirsch, Dr. Brian Artis, and surprise, Tom Renz, attorney Tom Renz showed up to that event as well. So that was really cool. It's going to be in a similar format as last year, so they'll have the program where each speaker does their presentation, and then there's going to be a Q&A. Now, the questions this year were submitted in advance rather than doing it from the audience, so it was a little easier to plan the questions in advance. So that's kind of cool, because it'll make it go faster, because you remember last year there was a little bit of a waiting when you submitted the questions as to which ones got picked. So.
Yeah, it didn't work so good.
Because basically the audience had to vote for the top few that they liked, and then those were the ones that got asked. So. But there'll be some awesome groups there that will have tables so people can learn about their organization. I know they're going to have Pennsylvania Informed Consent's going to be there as well. Let me look up the specifics.
I think Berks County Patriots.
Yep, Berks County Patriots is going to be there, which is awesome.
We know some of those folks.
Free PA is going to be there, which we know some of those folks as well.
Yeah.
They're going to have Association of American Physicians and Surgeons, which is one of our sponsors. O2 Hyperbarics, also Pulse PEMF will also be there. I think they're also a sponsor. PA Coalition for Informed Consent, or PCIC. PA Liberty Alliance. Confident Compassionate Care, also called Direct Primary Care, will be there. We actually know them as well. Integrity Health Alliance. So it's pretty exciting. Hey, good morning, Susan. She says, hi, hon, hope all is well. Yeah, things are going great. It's just been kind of a whirlwind with helping out with primary election season, and then trying to help fight locally against a big solar farm, and trying to cover grassroots events. It's just been kind of nonstop.
It does seem like it's one thing after another.
Yeah.
The assaults don't stop.
Yeah. So
we just got assaulted by air pollution.
Yeah, air pollution from something. So.
It was definitely orange here.
Yeah. The one night we were driving home, and it looked kind of like driving through fog, but the visibility was worse than fog. And it was because it's orangey.
The air seems to be better the last couple of days.
Well, one of our clear out, so. Susan says, yep, totally understand exactly. The assaults don't stop. Nope. Basically, you gotta keep going. So, it would be nice though if we got some rain, because the drought situation is, I don't know if you can tell in the stream, like the grass is starting to die in areas. And it's just, we've been wanting to put stuff in our garden, and it's so dry. It's like chopping concrete, trying to dig up the dirt.
Well, that's partly our soil.
Yeah, it's partly the soil, but I think it's also because it's so dry. But our potatoes, our first row of russet potatoes have come up, so that's kind of exciting.
Yeah, I was just out there watering them before we left this morning, and I was really surprised to see how well they're popping through the ground. So that's good.
Yeah, that's why I moved the mulch off of them last night, because I saw how much they were growing out of the ground. I was like, uh-oh, gotta move this. Because, you know, grass mulch can get matted down and it's hard to grow through, so.
Okay. Real soon.
Yeah, I'm hoping this weekend if the weather cooperates.
So an old US 22 heading west. Berks County, Pennsylvania. I hear that our county commissioner lives near here.
Yeah, that's what I heard.
One of our not so Republican commissioners. We tried to get him out on the primary, but we weren't successful.
Yeah, I think if people would have known he wanted to put warehouses everywhere in the county, then people might have voted against him. But unfortunately, the opposition didn't use that to their advantage, which is a shame.
Their messaging was, make Berks better.
Which does not really sound that good.
Well, you got to keep things vague to win elections. I think that's a general rule that politicians follow. You become too controversial and you lose votes.
Yeah.
And so therefore we never know what anybody really stands for.
Susan says a friend was all freaked out about the smoky air, and I had to remind them about all the bonfires we stood downwind of. It's hard for some to breathe, but the chatter is full of engendered fear. You're 100% right, Susan. I don't know if I don't think I've showed this on my page, but it's like, I've been telling people don't fall for it. I mean, one of the things I feel that they're using with the fires is to make it like fear porn again. You know, they want people to wear their masks. They want to, you know, listen to daddy government. You know, they want to control our lives. They want to, you know, push a digital ID, a digital currency. They don't want you to be able to have your freedoms anymore. People need to learn to not fall for it.
I have to say, though, that it was pretty bad. That going out in, say, like a half-face respirator wouldn't have been a bad idea.
I mean, it smelled like fire. Like, we walked out of our house and I was like, what's on fire? And it was bad. Our eyes were burning within 10 minutes of being outside.
I just hope that it was just smoke.
Well, I don't know.
There's been a lot of theories floating around about other things.
Have you seen the photos of New York City? How orange it was there?
Yeah, that camera, I guess, taken from the New Jersey side of the Hudson, showing the skyline in New York.
That was a pretty drastic difference.
Yeah. It all came in after a line of thunderstorms came through the other day.
That's what I don't understand, is how did the thunderstorms pull it through? But let's just say I'm not entirely convinced that it's 100% natural, because there's information out there that makes it sound fishy as to whether or not these fires were started intentionally. Susan also says PA is so gorgeous. I agree. And that's why we're trying to keep the farms. It's unfortunate that, you know, the Mushroom Farm and this one farmer wants to sell the land, you know, or release their land to this big solar company. So.
They're looking at almost 1 square mile of solar farms.
Hey, there was a sign, 2 signs back that says no more warehouses.
Yeah.
Yeah. I can't believe how many panels they want. When a gentleman came to our Berks County Republican meeting and mentioned that they wanted to build the solar farm, I was like, I thought that was over with. Because we had heard rumors about it like a year previously, and apparently the first plan that they tried to submit got shot down. So now we're on plan number 2.
Yeah, they updated the plan. I think they expanded it too.
Yeah, the plan was they didn't meet the certain land requirements. I don't know the specifics for that part.
I seem to recall it had to do with the amount of land that was going to be built with panels. There was a certain amount of land they needed to leave open.
So now it's over multiple properties now. The proposed plan.
It's roughly 440 acres, I think. I wonder how many panels they are talking about.
Susan says the feed keeps dropping in and out. Have a good drive and a great event. Catch you guys later. Have a great day, Susan. Yeah, the service could be in and out with being an old 22. It's just the way it goes, unfortunately.
Yeah, that stretch is a little bit iffy.
But this road is so much nicer since they repaved it. Because before, we go through here and it'd be like putting you guys in a blender. It'd be so rough. But now that they've repaved it, it's so much nicer.
We may not be able to stay on this because of time. We might have to make up some time.
Yeah. Hey, here's another one of those no more warehouses signs.
Townships have to be proactive to prevent these things from coming in.
Yeah. Unfortunately, most of the townships are not active in terms of having a ordinance or even having a good ordinance.
So this is Charlottesville.
You see the towers in the background.
Yeah, WEEU's towers. Straight ahead.
Tower to change the light bulb.
Yeah, that makes my palms sweat just watching somebody doing that. I can't imagine being up there either. Well, I can imagine, and it makes my palms sweaty.
There's a reason why they're paid well. It's not an easy job.
Although it's probably safer than climbing a tall ladder. Those towers are pretty secure.
Yeah, I would agree with you that climbing that's safer than a ladder. Because at least you can hook in with your straps,
Yeah, that's what you do. You need all the climbing gear so that you can do that.
Because whereas if you're doing a ladder, the whole ladder could move on you.
Yeah, if you get proper training, it's probably pretty reasonable to do it. But still, you got to keep your wits about you. Mistakes are deadly up there.
Yeah.
If you're doing work up there, you've got to use tools. You got to make sure all that stuff's tied in. You can't be dropping your tools up there. Besides being inconvenient, it's also really dangerous.
When you drop anything, you could damage anything on the tower or anybody below the tower or away from the tower, depending on how it bounces off,
Yeah. That's often what happens, is that if you do drop something, it'll hit something on the way down and it'll end up falling away from the base. So usually being at the base is the safest place.
So you had one experience with work that was not the safest place.
No, well, that was a really big tower. I'm going to a lot of space in the middle, and a big line came down through the middle of the tower. It hit things on the way down, but because it was on the inside, it didn't get directed out. It was too big of a piece to do that. So when it happened, I was there when it happened, and there were a couple of people near the tower. And I think there was a radio call about it, and they immediately headed to the center of the tower for protection, and then realized that was not a safe place. The transmission line came down. It clipped the back of the one guy's boot.
Yeah, I was gonna say, didn't it hurt his boot or something?
Yeah, it didn't hurt him. It just missed him. That was a really big project. They were putting up a new antenna system for the TV station, and that was a long process. They were there for quite a few months. They had to do some structural changes to the tower, and that's a slow process. They had to add some reinforcements. But they were either I think they might have been hoisting down some of the old line, and then they got away from them.
Gravity is a powerful thing.
So we'll be coming into Strausstown soon. Another mile. Make our way west towards the Berks County line.
Yeah, so many of the fields are brown. I was just noticing compared to like at home, it's not just us.
We did get some pretty good thunderstorms last week. There were 2 times we got some rain, so.
I mean, look at the church.
Yeah.
It's completely brown.
But that's, thunderstorms are spotty. They're not everywhere, so I think we got a little bit more rain than they did out here.
You smell that weird smell?
I got a whiff of something.
It's, I don't know, kind of like oil and...
Yeah,
I'm not
there was a spot back there where it looked like they had put some oil down.
Okay. Kempton Fair, June 15th, 16th, and 17th. That's one of the nice fairs in our area. I remember going there after elementary school days at the end of the year. We also had a carnival too. I wonder if they still do the carnival.
I think they might. Didn't we hear some people talking about ones for Kutztown? I think that was
I think that's in Kutztown though.
Yeah, isn't it the elementary schools that do that?
Yeah.
Around where we are? This intersection can fool you if you want to stay on Old 22. So what has Dr. McCullough been up to lately? Have you been following him at all?
He's been talking about the transgenderism stuff lately.
Oh, really?
Besides, like, the excess deaths. I haven't been able to read a lot of it because, like I said, we've been really busy.
Yeah.
With the election stuff, and now being on the research committee for fighting the solar farm, it's just been, at least for us, a lot of solar farm research. So I volunteered to host a research committee and put together information that we could submit to the supervisors and planning commission. Because the biggest problem with these farms is the solar farms are predatory. They come into places that they can you try to convince someone, locally to, go for the idea, whether they, financially gain from it. They usually do. Usually it's either part of their property or, some other way, like they'll donate to our community cause or whatnot. And they also try to find places that have, open land, agricultural land. And if you have power lines, all the better, because that makes it easier. But the number one thing is people don't know the risks. They just see the dog and pony show that the company puts on that looks so nice. And they're like, how can there be anything wrong with solar? But when you start actually doing the research, you realize there's a lot that could go wrong. I think the big one that surprised me was the huge fire risk that is involved.
There is a fire risk. I don't know how huge it is, because I had really never heard about solar fires before.
Well, I feel like it's huge because we don't have a local fire company. We have to rely on 2 other communities' fire companies for our area. So to me, that's a negative. Number 2 is like most people don't, most firefighters aren't trained to put out electrical fires, and when you got hundreds of acres on fire, because this stuff can spread. I mean, how do you put that out? You put it out. If you need water, where you can get the water? We have wells where we live. There's not enough water to put out a fire. And if you use the foam, you got toxic forever chemicals that are going to get leached into the ground and in the water supply. There's no real good answer. I mean, you were looking into the DC arcing.
Yeah, that's the fundamental issue.
That and, defective parts, essentially.
And it was something I really didn't think about. But I knew that with the solar panels, even if you're doing this, in your backyard, you'll string these panels together, because every solar cell only has half a volt of output. It can produce a fair amount of current based on how big the cell is, but it only produces half a volt. And that's not a usable voltage, and it's not easy to step that up. So what they do is they string them all together in one panel, and then these panels have a certain amount of voltage output based on how many solar cells are in series. And then you string panels together in series to step up the voltage even further. So you end up with, at least in the home application situation, DC voltages that are in the range of 200 to 600 volts. And that's enough to essentially turn your solar panels into an arc welder. You can actually take the 2 ends of your connections and form an arc. And it's really the principle of how arc welders work. Now, you're not going to be arc welding with your solar panels, but what happens is if there's a bad connection, that's where you can get these arcing problems. And once a bad connection starts and you start getting arcing, that tends to make it worse. So now you've got all these high voltage panels, essentially. The whole thing becomes a high voltage circuit, which is inherently dangerous. And you got an entire field of these. Now you've got a lot of voltage, and in these what they call utility scale solar projects, you're dealing with even higher voltages.
So and it's not like your typical house solar where you can just throw breakers for all of it. They have to have breakers all over the place. But the thing is, if it's on fire, you might not be able to reach the breakers, so that stuff could be hot.
Well, you can't turn them off because the sun is what's driving the energy. So you only disconnect them. So there's no, master switch, like you're saying, that turn off the system so that you can extinguish the energy. As long as it's sunny, you're going to have energy being dumped into a DC fault. So you have to disconnect a lot of panels. And like you said, it can be difficult to do, especially out in the fields.
Yeah.
We've been looking at a lot of solar video, and it really surprised me how these panels can burn. I actually didn't think they could burn, but they definitely burn. And they burn very dirty.
Yeah, like we've seen some on like warehouses, roofs, where it's underneath the panels, on top of the panels. damaging the roof with that much heat, you know. Sometimes the flames were like several feet high.
Yeah.
Like, it was black smoke coming off of it.
But I think a lot of these are because of connection issues. And sometimes it's due to poor installation practices. Like here's an array on our left.
Mm-hmm.
It's a small scale one, but it's still going to be a lot of voltage on those wires.
There's nothing really growing underneath them either.
I think the problem you run into with the big scale stuff like we're looking at is that we live in a mixed use area. There's a lot of residences. This isn't out in the country per se. I mean, you might think driving through here, it's pretty country, you know, it looks pretty rural. And I guess it is, but you do have a lot of homesteads scattered about. It's not really wide open agricultural land like you see in other parts of the country. So this particular project, I think there's over 40 homes that are essentially neighbors to that land. So you have to be concerned what happens if you do have a DC arcing and a fire starts. You've got residences that are pretty close.
It's not just the act of putting the fire out and keeping it from spreading, it's the toxic fumes, you know. Yeah, solar panels are sealed, you know, and those rare earth minerals and stuff are sealed, but once that stuff gets on fire, that stuff's no longer sealed.
I'm guessing it must be the resins that they use to seal the panels that is the stuff that's burning and looks nasty. Also makes it hard for the panels to be recycled. That's another thing that you know, we're looking at. It's like, how sustainable is this? Right now it looks like solar panels are difficult to recycle, a lot cheaper to throw away.
Which is not the best way of managing it.
They say it takes about 1 or 2 years for most panels to generate enough electricity to pay for the energy that was used to make them. I don't know if that considers all the environmental costs associated with it.
Didn't we see somewhere on one of the energy associations that it would take how many tons of oil equivalent to do it up front? Or was it an electric car?
I think what you're referring to was an energy analysis of electric vehicles.
Okay.
Like how much equivalent oil energy it takes to make one electric vehicle.
I think it was like 20-some barrels.
20 to 30 barrels equivalent of oil, I think is what they call it. One barrel of oil, I believe, is 42 gallons.
Yep, that sounds right.
That truck saw I didn't have room to merge, and so he moved over for me.
Aw, that's nice of him. See, guys, there's still nice people in the world. Honk, honk.
Yeah.
Reminds me of the convoy days.
As soon as he saw I had to slow down and I wasn't going to do it, he moved over. Of course, you don't always have the room to do it, but he did, so that was nice of him. Yeah, it takes a lot of energy to make an electric vehicle. It also takes a lot of minerals. That's another thing that we're finding out. We're kind of looking at the solar stuff on two levels. We're looking at it at the local level of, you know, what do we need to do to protect our area from this sort of development, and
Globally, really.
yeah, and then the other side of it is, you know, does this stuff make sense on a large scale? And there's definitely a dark side to it.
The mining of the minerals and stuff is very dirty. There's not enough of it to
that's the reality of it. Is there just is not enough. We're gonna need to start mining more minerals, which last time I checked wasn't a very environmentally friendly process.
Well, it's not only that. I think from some of the documents that we were reading, it takes like 20 years to really get a mine up and running. It's not something you can just do overnight. You got to find an area, and then if you're turning it into a mine, there's a whole set of processes that you have to do to make it essentially a mine. It's not like Minecraft where you just go get your pickaxe and just start digging. That's all you do. It's a little more complicated than that.
Yeah, there's no government regulation in Minecraft.
Yeah. I mean, I'm not saying Minecraft can't be fun. It can be. But there's a little bit of difference between that and reality. Because typically in Minecraft, when I mine something, I'm not polluting your water.
Yeah, that is one of the big issues with mines. Well, refining these minerals that's not exactly a green process either.
Yeah. The other thing you have to look into with these solar companies is they always approach you as an LLC, which tends to not hold on to the project very long. You'll see just with other people that we've reached out to across the state that these companies change hands every few years because they get a federal subsidy, a state subsidy, energy credits, and then they start realizing they're losing money, so they sell it. And then the next person does the same thing, and when they start losing money, they decide to sell it. So the last person gets it, and then they no longer can find a seller, so they end up going bankrupt. And then, depending on how good or bad your ordinance is, your whole community could be left, having to decommission the whole facility. That's why you gotta look at what your ordinances are, and if you don't have one, you need to make one with your township supervisors, so that way you don't have something like that come down in the future.
I don't know about that. I don't know about them losing money.
I'm talking about the decommissioning. For example, I think the Gettysburg farm, they didn't initially have decommissioning stuff in their ordinance.
Yeah, you were saying though that they would sell them because they were losing money.
Yeah, that's what they said. The one near Gettysburg that they've interacted with is now on its third or fourth owner.
Is that because it's not profitable, or is it simply what they do?
He said it was because it was not profitable. I mean, I can't verify it.
I know one of the folks on our research committee is he's got a background and worked in utility, and he said one of the problems they're going to run into is they're not going to be able to get the pricing that they need, because what happens is that you can get enough of these solar plants online, you're going to have a surplus of power during certain times of the day. Now, I always thought it would make sense that solar would help, especially in the summertime with air conditioning.
Which basically means they have to shut down panels or even completely off if it's really too much.
Well, they were some of the papers that we were reading are talking about having to do that in the future, to be able to control the panels so that they control the farms so that they can disconnect some of them because of that tendency to generate too much power at a particular time of day.
Because most of these places do not have, storage capabilities, and if you look at storage, that's a whole other rabbit hole you can go down. The problem is they tend to get very, very hot, so they tend to have cooling systems. And
lithium is that if we're really going to be sustainable with it, we've got to have a solution for that.
Yeah.
Right now, the solution is it's cheaper to put it in the landfill than it is to recycle it. And what's more solar facilities?
It's a big deal within the solar farm industry. It's one of the recycling, but they get a lot of hails, the damage they specifically make. So.
Yeah, I wondered about things panels can get broken.
Welcome to Fredericksburg.
Yeah.
Time flies when you're having fun.
On a not so great day for solar energy.
Yeah, it's kind of hazy.
That was another interesting statistic. That takes in.
They're proposing so that
Change with the season.
no, they're completely fixed.
Because I think. Yeah, so if you don't want solar farms in your backyard, you got to make sure your ordinances protect you.
And also stand up with your community, you know, because one of the things that we noticed is we didn't know about the solar farms until someone told us. You know, they don't advertise that they're trying to build these in your backyard. Because one thing the Gettysburg folks told me is one of the things it's actually done is it's united their community. Like they actually, you know, the neighbors that you would drive by or wave to, you know, like in your area, you actually know who they are. You go out and, you know, talk about things now that they didn't necessarily do in the past because this one issue brought them together. So that's kind of cool. And I think we can say for ourselves that we feel that way too. It's nice to have gotten to know our more extended neighbors.
Yeah, we met a lot more people this way.
Yeah.
So we talked about Dr. McCullough. How about Dr. Steve Kirsch, PhD? What's he been up to?
Well, he's going down the autism rabbit hole.
Oh, yeah, okay.
He's been exposing how he believes that vaccines cause autism. Childhood vaccines, specifically.
Oh, the snowflakes on YouTube won't like hearing this.
Oh, it's okay. I don't have anything to cover in the next 2 weeks. So, apologies, John, if you, if I don't end up writing back to you for 2 weeks, you'll know why. Yeah, so that's what he's been exposing. He's been going into all the research. He's been, you know, reading Dissolving Illusions by Suzanne Humphreys. He's been doing a lot of reading Turtles All the Way Down. Just putting it out there. I mean, he's offering money, too, for people to try to disprove his, you know, theory. And nobody's taking him up on the offer.
I hope he talks about that stuff today.
I just found out last night, because I'm reading Dr. Pierre Corey's book that just came out, The War on Ivermectin, and found out his daughter was vaccine injured.
Really?
Yeah, he didn't connect the dots till later, but she ended up getting a condition called PANDAS, PANDAS, and out of the blue. And they couldn't figure out how she got it, and later he connected the dots, and it was from her childhood vaccines. That's rough.
Yeah.
I know people in the Lyme community that had that, and it is horrific to have both. Either one sucks, but to have both is really, really bad. It affects your nervous system really bad. That's where he first learned about the functional neurological disorder, or basically the BS diagnosis they give you if you have a neurological condition and they don't know what it is, and they want to just say you're crazy, they'll give you a functional neurological disorder diagnosis. But that's the typical gaslighting experience at doctors these days.
Yeah, it's fairly common.
I'm certainly lucky to have my dad by my side because extended family didn't really understand, you know, like, no, you just take 2 to 4 weeks of antibiotics and you're cured. That doesn't work for everybody. That works great if you get a new tick. Not if you didn't catch but a lot of, people that have looked at the research and studies have, suggested that Lyme disease actually by a tick, you can still have it. So it's a complicated process, and unfortunately there's not enough doctors that are willing to put in the time. So the very few that you do find end up charging a lot ill. It's a lot of appointments, treatment changes. I think that's why we got to build an alternative healthcare system. The way we're doing healthcare right now is not the best way. Right now it just feels like a cattle trough. You go in, get your maybe 10 minutes, and then next. They don't really answer your questions.
Yeah, I've definitely noticed it over the years with these healthcare networks taking over. It's all cookie cutter medicine.
Yeah, when they all follow the one protocol, they don't look at the individual person's biodiversity. I mean, everybody reacts different to medications.
Doctors have become employees over my lifetime. And as you know, as being an employee, you do what the boss wants you to do.
Yeah.
Or you're looking for another job.
Well, this is why so many people died during COVID. The hospitals killed them. They had really crappy protocols, and doctors just followed the protocols. There was exceptions, though. There was Dr. Pierre Corey, there was, Paul Merrick and others. The frontline.
Dr. McCullough, too.
Yeah, Dr. McCullough. Frontline COVID Critical Care Alliance, American Frontline Doctors, Vladimir Zelenko, who unfortunately is no longer with us. Rashid Buttar is also no longer with us. There's a lot of doctors out there who went against the system and saved many, many lives. Didier Raoult, which is, I guess was he in France?
Yeah.
France. So.
What's the name of today's event?
Science Uncensored. That's what it's called.
Did you hear that about 300 COVID-era medical publications have been retracted?
I heard something about that, but I don't know the specifics.
I don't have the specifics on either, but apparently a lot of stuff that was put out during the pandemic has been retracted.
The rest of the title for today is Science Responding to COVID Tyranny. About possible legislation that you can try to push for to prevent future situations like this, and also learn about the WHO accords that they're trying to push so that we the sovereignty over itself.
Yeah, I don't like agreements like that.
Nope, me neither. They're wrong, but it's all about control. They want to control. These global elite want to control you. They want to be able to track everything you do, everything you buy, and bulk it up over the last few years. There's a lot that have, but it's just surprising how many still are in the dark.
Yeah, we talked about that. I think some of it is just people want to just move on. They want to forget it like a bad dream.
Yeah, which I get, in a way, but they don't realize what's coming down the pipeline. That something more scarier is coming down, totalitarianism.
One of our neighbors was saying, ignorance is bliss. And I was thinking, until it knocks on your door, until tyranny knocks on your door.
Yeah.
Effectively, it did.
I'm just not sure people recognized it that way.
No, there's quite a few people that go along with the narrative. They think we're the loons.
Well, as I always like to say, follow the money. Look at who's sponsoring the studies. Look at the conflicts of interest. alternative treatments. But the thing is, there were alternative treatments. So what they do is they trash the alternative treatments and basically try to say they don't work, even though they do. To me, that's very morally wrong. You basically let tons of people die so you could push this product, which ended up hurting and killing even more people. And who knows what the long-term effects will be for those that are still around.
I had somebody say to me recently, I don't know what. And now I said, yeah, that's the big thing, is why did we not do that?
Yeah.
Why was this the first disease to come along where
They said don't go to the hospital until you're almost dying.
we don't have a way to treat it? We don't know what to do.
She mentioned that, like, she tried to go to, like, a doctor's appointment, and the doctor didn't want to see her.
Oh, really?
Yeah. She tried to schedule, like, a general doctor's appointment because she wasn't feeling well. And sometimes they're like, no, I don't want to see you. Go to the ER once you're feeling really, really bad. And it's just like, why are we doing this? It's like the first time we're not trying to help patients. To me, because it's like similar to what people, when you get Lyme disease that doesn't go away, it's a few weeks of antibiotics, they will treat you like, you should be better, it's your own problem, deal with it. So it just felt very eerily similar, except this was very different. It was affecting the whole world at the same time, and everywhere the same thing was going on, so it was clearly planned. Which, if you haven't seen Plandemic 3 is out.
Yeah, that is a very interesting follow-up.
Mickey Wells did an amazing job on it.
Yeah, if you watch Plandemic 2, you definitely should check it out. It's well done. So we're crossing into Dauphin County now. And we turning up here. This is the Hershey exit of I-81. We're on Route 22 running parallel to 81.
For those that don't know how to find the movie, you can go to plandemicseries.com. You can find all three of them, Plandemic 1, 2, and 3. All of them are worth watching, but number 3 was definitely, I feel, very, very impactful. What's great about it is the movies are completely free, and they actually encourage you to download them and share them everywhere because places are censoring them. And you have to ask the question, what's in it that makes them want to censor? What scares them?
Here at the traffic light is Old 22.
It says Grantville to the right.
Yeah, the little town of Grantville just to the right.
We're not that far away. Where that tower is right next to the hotel that's hosting the event. Grantville Volunteer Fire Company. I see the flag for the one hotel. Well, I guess I better wrap up the stream because we're going to have to get out soon, so...
Time to go to work.
Time to go to work.
Doing
part
whatever.
Work, part fun, so...
Whatever they need us to do.
We're going to be helping out with the cameras, so that'll be fun. Well, I hope everybody has a great rest of their day, and if I get put into YouTube jail or Facebook jail, you'll know why. But it's always great interacting with you all, as always, and we hope to catch you next time. Take care, guys.